So it was always going to be a hard move for the Kansas City Chiefs to sign Mike Evans. Mike Evans just re-signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for 2 years, $53 million, with $35 million being guaranteed. Really interesting to me since he only re-signed for 2 more years. Maybe he plans on having 1 more contract in his career. I said a few videos ago that I think the best offer the Chiefs or really anybody could make is 2 years, $60 million, but that was if Snead was traded. This will be interesting to see as well how the Chiefs play out the Snead situation. There are a few players I think the Chiefs could sign this free agency, but maybe they'll just focus on keeping both Snead and Chris Jones, which would be amazing. But it was also recently reported that only a 2nd round pick would get the job done for Snead. Let me know what you think about that. I personally don't think just a 2nd round pick is enough for Snead, but at least it's better than him walking in free agency for nothing. The Chiefs do really well drafting. They've met with a handful of guys and usually draft defensively and develop those players, but it's pretty obvious what the Chiefs need to draft this year. They need receivers. The NFL Combine is happening right now, so we've been able to watch all the activities go on, see the upcoming prospects, and all what usually goes on during Combine weekend. We're seeing the 2 highest quarterback prospects not even throw in the Combine. Caleb Williams is so confident that he'll be the #1 pick in the draft as well. I do think the Bears should go for Marvin Harrison Jr. or just trade the pick, but that's a whole different conversation. The Chiefs had their first interview with their potential 1st round draft pick, which still happens to be a wide receiver. I would expect the Chiefs to use their 1st round pick on a wide receiver, especially since this year's wide receiver room in the draft is so deep. The Chiefs interviewed wide receiver from Texas, Xavier Worthy. Xavier is coming off his best season as a junior with 75 receptions for 1,014 yards and 5 touchdowns. His freshman year, you could also put up there as one of his best seasons as he had 981 yards on 62 receptions and 12 touchdowns. 5 was the lowest amount of touchdowns he's gotten in a year. His second best was 9. His freshman year, he set records for receiving yards and touchdowns in a single season. He also broke the school freshman receiving yards record with 261 yards against Oklahoma. But as I'm recording this video, he broke the 40-yard dash record by running a 4.22, which is crazy. John Ross is somewhere sad right now. I believe now it's actually very unlikely for the Chiefs to pick him up, but the Chiefs did meet with him and they had an interview with him. It'll be interesting to see if Mahomes invites him to his private workout, because usually Mahomes has a private workout in Texas where he invites a few draft prospects out to work out with him. He invited Rashee Rice out to that same camp last year. Rashee Rice is also going to develop so much more throughout the season this year. Mahomes was only looking towards him through the second half of the season. Now Rashee Rice should be getting targeted throughout the whole entire year. Whoever the Chiefs draft this draft, I believe Mahomes is going to work a lot with them this offseason to get them up and ready for the season, because that's the one thing the Chiefs need bad. That's why it would have just been insane for the Chiefs to draft Mike Evans, and the Chiefs could add Mike Evans to that roster, to that coaching staff, to that system, and, you know, pair Mike Evans with Patrick Mahomes. That would just be insane. Mike Evans is a super consistent receiver. He's had over 1,000 yards receiving in every year he's been a starter, and he's done it with a variety of quarterbacks, so of course adding him to Patrick Mahomes would be insane. I believe he could probably put up 2,000 yards. I think he would break the record. It was also reported the Chiefs are really close to closing in a deal on Chris Jones' contract. We should be hearing about that this week. After the Chiefs figured that out, they need to figure out what they can do with Snead. Even though Snead didn't get the first team All-Pro, Trent McDuffie did. Snead had one of the best cornerback seasons that we've seen in a very long time. People really don't understand how good he was playing. Snead didn't allow a single touchdown on over 90 targets this season, which hasn't been done since 2019 Stephon Gilmore. But the way Snead moves around the field and is able to physically pressure these receivers is unlike anybody in the league. The world really got to see how physical he is in the wild card round when he was putting Tyreek in a box all game, even jamming him. Snead was doing this to every team's top receivers all year long and completely shut out anybody paired on him. Him and McDuffie is a scary cornerback duo, and it's the scariest in the league. The way they are both consistently able to move down the field, locking up everyone and making the best reads is very underrated. Like I mentioned earlier, McDuffie got the first team All-Pro recognition for it, but Snead should have as well. Snead has a bright future ahead of him, so if the Chiefs would be able to get at least a contract for him this season, it would be a huge help as they try to become the first ever NFL team to three-peat. If the Chiefs can't agree on a long-term contract, hopefully they can at least keep him for this season, because losing out on him this year for a second-round pick wouldn't be ideal unless they drafted another stud. I'm confident the Chiefs will be able to sign Chris Jones since it's obvious he wants to come back, but they're going to be losing some players on this defense. Willie Gay and Drew Tranquill are also another 2 free agents that I see potentially getting bigger contracts elsewhere. Drew, I can see the Chiefs finding a way to keep, but it's almost guaranteed that Willie is going to find a nicer contract somewhere else, which is understandable. Fortunately though, for the Chiefs, they have such a deep linebacker room that even if Willie were to leave, it shouldn't affect them too much. They played the AFC Championship game without him, and Leo Chanel stepped up a ton, so I'm looking forward to seeing what he will do next year. Leo Chanel had a great Super Bowl as well, the highest rated player in the entire game, so I'm expecting the Chiefs to play him a lot next year. Drew Tranquill also stepped up a ton as he came in to replace Nick Bolton when Nick Bolton went out with his injury. If they were able to keep Drew Tranquill on this defense, it would be a huge help for them as they try to get this three-peat done. Drew Tranquill was a great rotational piece to this defense. He came from the Chargers last year, and he enjoys his time in Kansas City, as we were able to see that from the the parade. But overall, he's a great player, and I want the Chiefs to be able to keep him around for a longer time than just 1 year. The Chiefs won the Super Bowl on their down year with the youngest defense in the league and the so-called worst offense in the league that led the leagues in drops and played historically bad. I mean, the Raiders defense literally scored 2 touchdowns in 6 seconds. That was a horrible way to start Christmas. The Chiefs, like I mentioned, have a lot of depth when it comes to younger guys. We will see this more next year as more guys like Jalen Watson and others will be taking on bigger roles. The first priority to this three-peat is structuring the defense to where they are able to suffocate teams consistently again. They are the only team in NFL history to not allow more than 28 points in 20 out of 21 games. Almost every game if it wasn't for Jordan Love. Mahomes and Andy Reid proved that they don't need a top market receiver to win championships. The Chiefs aren't a team to go all in on high market players or unload draft picks and trades. They are always playing their cards right and know exactly what they're doing when it comes to every move and decision they make. They've shown this time after time when they make the right moves. Even looking at the Hardman move, when he left in free agency, they traded for him back, and guess who scores the game-winning touchdown in the Super Bowl? Mecole Hardman. Same thing last year when they traded for Kadarius Toney, who got them back in the game with the longest punt return in Super Bowl history after already catching a touchdown. Kadarius Toney. The Chiefs make the best decisions to help their team when needed the most. It was reported that there are quite a few teams interested in L'Jarius Sneed. Those teams are the Titans, the Patriots, the Lions, the Falcons, the Jaguars, the Vikings, and the Colts. One team on there that definitely is interesting is the Vikings. It'd be interesting to see if the Chiefs could even attempt to trade with the Vikings to get Justin Jefferson. A lot of people are talking about the possibility of this happening, but I personally don't see it happening. Hopefully I can get proved wrong though, that would be nice. Like I mentioned, Sneed would help a lot of defenses, and it would make sense why the Vikings would trade Jefferson for Sneed, but it would have to be for so much draft compensation. The Chiefs are not the type of organization to do big trades like that and unload a bunch of draft picks for players. If anything, they're just going to do anything possible to sign him for another year. But the Chiefs need to find their next receiver to pair next to Rashee Rice, as he'll potentially have an even better year than last year. The Chiefs should be able to improve this offseason regardless of any pieces they might lose. Like I mentioned already, Drue Tranquill's a piece this defense definitely needs to have back next season. When he came in for Nick Bolton, he showed that he could be a consistent starter and make play after play, and he did it all season long. It would make sense why he would take a pay cut. I'm not sure if he would go to another team even if they offer him a higher contract. I think he might want to stay with the Chiefs. He enjoys being here a lot, and he won a championship. I'm sure any player, especially one like Drue Tranquill, he'll be able to stay. It would be great if the Chiefs can bring him back. I promise you, if they lose Willie Gay and potentially Sneed, having Drue Tranquill would be a solid piece for this defense. I would assume the Chiefs are going with a receiver like I've been saying in the first round. It'll be interesting to see what other picks they make throughout this whole entire draft. If the Chiefs are able to draft Xavier Worthy, he'll be such a solid addition to this offense. Him and Rice will be great paired up together. Mahomes is already showing love to Xavier Worthy after he ran the 4.22 and how they're both from Texas. So Mahomes is definitely leaning towards Xavier Worthy, but there's definitely a lot of other prospects in the draft if he's not available in the late first round. I think after he ran the 4.22, he might not be, but I think other teams might get other players. Like Keon Coleman, I thought was going to be available in the late first round, but I don't think he will. But this draft class is so deep. I'm expecting the Chiefs to do a good job in the first round and all their other draft picks. I'll be staying up to date with all teams' free agency moves and moves they make in the draft.